Hello, my friend, and welcome back to another kick-ass new episode of the Burnout-Proof podcast. We are at episode 151, so we broke 150, and it is our first episode of 2025. So that is kind of cool. Now, before we get too far into this, those of you who are watching on YouTube, watching the video, I'm going to apologize in advance. We went back to recording on the webcam. I could not get the audio quality to be good recording on my phone. I even hooked it up to my nice mic that I've got going on here, and it still just was not syncing to it. I don't know what the hell I was doing wrong. But sometimes you have to choose the logistically less complicated way to do this kind of stuff. And that is what I chose. So sorry to those of you who are watching the video. But I want to dive in immediately to what we're talking about today. Today, we are talking about new year, new systems, how I'm using Notion and ChatGPT to scale, to go for it, to get shit done, to do all the things in 2025. And I want to immediately kick things off. And I've been talking about this a lot on my newsletter, on Instagram, on all sorts of different places. This whole idea of new year, new me, because we all tend to hear that a lot at the start of the year, right? But if we're real, if we have a little real talk moment, as much as, we might want to be better and do more and kind of level up and challenge ourselves and all of these things, you don't need to change. It's not a you thing that needs to change here. It's your systems. A lot of us, when we set new goals at the beginning of the year, we get into this mode where it's like, we expect ourselves to be perfect. We expect ourselves to just willpower and muscle our way through whatever new things we want to accomplish in the new year. And I'm telling you right now, willpower doesn't work. And it's not about you being any sort of a failure. It's about your systems. Because without the right systems, even our best intentions, even our, most disciplined moments, like we're going to crash and burn by February. That's the fact of the matter from what I found. When you are juggling 80,000 things, when you've got so much on your plate, when your ambition is just relentless and never gives up and never quits and constantly wants you to do more and is asking more of you, intentions and purely disciplining and willpowering your way through isn't going to cut it. And that's why this year I immediately want to call out doing things different. So stick around with me because that is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how I'm leveling up my systems, how you can too, so that we can really make sure our systems support us as we head into this new year. Because I'm a big believer that when we prioritize systems, you are increasing your capacity to do the life-giving stuff. Your systems give you more energy, more time, and more capacity to do all of the other things that you want to do as the relentless achiever that you are. So stick around because I'm going to share how I've leveled up my systems with Notion and ChatGPT, how I'm auditing what's working and what's not, and how you can do the same. All right. So with that, let's go ahead and dive into this. And I want to start off by talking about systems over resolutions. So traditional resolutions, those are not something I have set in probably 5 years, maybe even a decade at this point. I actually don't remember when I started not setting resolutions anymore, but I kind of already touched on it. A lot of traditional resolutions fail because they rely on willpower. It's you set the intention and now all of a sudden you think after a day, you're just going to be this different person and you're going to show up differently and you're going to do the damn thing. And sometimes that works. Sometimes we can muscle our way through. But a lot of times it doesn't. Or if we do make it work, it doesn't come easily. It doesn't come naturally. We have to quite literally, it's why I keep using the expression of muscle our way through. We have to push and really force it sometimes to happen. We have to put in all of this extra work just to go do the thing, make it happen for ourselves, whether that is a healthy lifestyle change you're trying to make or whatever. We have to muscle our way through to get that change to happen. That is how traditional resolutions work. And what I want to do instead is to challenge that. And instead of approaching things from this traditional resolution perspective, look at things from a systems perspective. If instead of relying on willpower, what if we relied on systems? And what I'm going to share with you today is how to do what I call a burnout-proof systems audit and why now is the perfect time to do it. Because as much as we might see stuff online, I'm like calling out a lot of the stuff that we see online this time of year. As much as we might see online, the new year, new me, but you also might see this other stuff online that's something along the lines of New Year's is just some arbitrary day on the calendar. Like you could have your new year and your blank slate and your reset in the spring. That's all true. In a lot of ways, I see what people are saying. New Year's and New Year's Day and this time of year is just quite literally a date on the calendar, and it might as well be May when this happens. That's legit. I get that. But simultaneously, there is a lot of behavior change and psychology research around this time of year that says, yeah, when we are in New Year's mode, when we are starting a new year, you are essentially psychologically primed to reset, to start over, to have this blank slate. So as much as it's so true that, yeah, it might as like you could do this in May if you really wanted to, if you are genuinely not feeling reset, blank slate, let's start fresh right now, cool. Then maybe you address this again in March or April or May or whatever it might be. But there is a psychological basis to how like all of the stuff that we're being fed right now about reset, refresh, blank slate, new year. There's a psychological priming that happens when we start a new year that we might as well take advantage of. And that's why I think doing this sort of systems audit, doing this work right now can be beautiful, because this is a chance to step back and ask yourself, are my systems working for me, or am I working for my systems? Because if you are working for your systems are not serving you in the way that they could. You are having to muscle your way through getting your systems going. Again, your systems aren't working the way that they should. And that is really what I want us to spend some time addressing today. Okay. So what I want to start with today is I want to start with how my systems are evolving for 2025. All right. This is where we're going to dive into some of the tangible changes I've been making and how they brought me more clarity and more peace. All right. Clarity and peace. This is probably the best I felt going into a year in terms of planning. So one of the first things I did is I kind of sat down and I thought about what are the things that aren't working? What are the things that are working in my systems right now? And what I realized, there was actually a lot of stuff that was working. I had a hard time saying anything wasn't working. If anything, the stuff that quote unquote wasn't working is I didn't like how I was scheduling or setting goals. I realized that I was kind of reinventing the wheel every quarter or every month or every week, instead of really leveraging the systems that I have and making sure that the goals that I set at the beginning of the quarter were constantly top of mind. Like, I could show you my Notion systems right now, but I'll just say right now, there was a lot of redundancy. There was a lot of me every month or every new week kind of recreating goals and coming up with new goals, when the fact of the matter was I had set goals at the beginning of the quarter or the beginning of the year that I wasn't going back to enough. So that was one of the things that I was just like, this is not working. Probably one of the only things that I recognized was not working. But there were a lot of things that I recognized were working. They just needed a tweak. So like I have day planners in Notion, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about in just a second. I have day planners in Notion that I really, really love, and we're actually working very, very well. I love my content calendars. I love a lot of the review and reflection systems that I have in place. And then I realized I really like my calendars and I really like using ChatGPT. So I took a lot of the what wasn't working and I streamlined it. And then I took a lot of the what was working and kind of thought of what are the ways in which this might need a little bit of a tweak. And for those of you who are actually on the video version, I'm going to share my screen through parts of this. So perhaps it's a good thing that we're using the computer instead of the phone to do this. I'm going to share my screen through parts of this so you can see what I've done. So I kind of did this overarching reflection of what's working, what's not working, what needs to be tweaked. And this is what I came up with to quote unquote overhaul, which overhaul even sounds like excessive, to tweak really my systems to kick off 2025. One of the things that I did is I did a little bit of a daily planner overhaul inside of Notion. And I'm going to actually, for those of you who are watching the video, show you this. For those of you who are just listening on your go-to podcasting platform, don't worry. I am going to walk you and talk you through this. All right. So let's see here. So if you are watching on the video right now, you'll be able to see inside of my Notion systems. These are my day planners inside of Notion. I have one for each day of the week, and you can kind of see the different themes that I have. My day planners are essentially pages inside of Notion that I have made up to support the theme of the day. Okay, so my Mondays are CEO days, my Tuesdays are client days, my Wednesdays are community and visibility days. My Thursdays are about clients and products. And then Friday is kind of my corporate/wrap up day. So inside of here, I've made a couple tweaks. I always had this little gallery at the top of the page where I could see all of the different days of the week. But one of the big things is I put my income goal. I put my income goal at the top of the page. I have been playing around a lot with my systems about making sure that the big goals that I have stay top of mind. So I want to make sure I never forget about my goals. the things that I'm working on, the things that I'm focusing on. So you'll actually also see that my vision board is up here on the top as well. I put my vision board at the top of each page. So my word of the year is front and center. So my vision for the year is front and center. So I've got that at the top of the page. And then I've got my income goal on the page too, because I want to make sure I don't forget about these things. I also have my priorities for the day on this page as well, so that I can see what are the biggest things that I need to work on. Some of the other things that I did, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this a little bit later, is I put my workout for the day on the page. I want this page to be like a one-stop shop. Everything that I need to see for this day is on the page. So I've got my priorities for the day. I can see my workout. I can see my active projects. So again, kind of similar to the income goal, the idea was that I have everything I need to keep top of mind on the page. So I've got all of that on the page. And then really the bottom of the page is what supports my theme for the day. So I have a lot of KPI check-ins that I do on this day. And that's really what there's the middle section of the page is for, is to check in on my KPIs. So I do things like how many new contacts do I have? How many recent conversations have I had? And how many new leads, how many converted leads, stuff like that. So this is kind of an idea of how I have tweaked and updated my system. So every single day inside of these daily themes has that vision board at the top with my word of the year, has my income goals, has the active projects and objectives that I'm working on, has my workout, and then it's got information that is meant to help support me with whatever the goal is for that day. So these pages have been updated to represent my new themes and to really make sure those goals are top of mind. This is something that I've never done before with those daily planner pages. I love the daily planner pages, but I really tried to optimize them so the goals and things that I'm working for are top of mind. So that is one of the tweaks that I made in my Notion systems. Another tweak that I've made in my systems, which is not Notion specific, it's actually calendar specific. So really, in a lot of ways, it's about how I'm using Notion, Google Calendar, and ChatGPT in my planning for 2025. So I want to talk about time blocking for just a second, because I used to be a time blocking hater. And I think it was because I had a very narrow vision of what time blocking was and how time blocking worked. I always thought time blocking was kind of like those AI schedulers. I think there's one called Motion that's very popular, where you like put in, these are all of my tasks for today. These are all of how long those tasks are going to take. And these are the priorities. And the AI scheduler will literally go in and lay out what you should be working on when. I've tried those in the past. I hate them. I hate them so much. It makes me feel overscheduled. It stresses me out because if I get any sort of off with my schedule, I feel like I failed. I hate them. So I'm probably on record somewhere on this podcast, somewhere on other podcasts, maybe on my YouTube channel, saying how much I hate time blocking. But what I realized recently is that there's other ways that I can time block that I actually think are going to be truly beneficial for me. And the big ways in which I've been doing this is time blocking in much larger blocks. So not like 15 minutes to do this task, but I'm talking like 2 to 4 hours to work on a project. So I have been time blocking in a way where I am blocking out massive swaths of time on my calendar. And it's swaths of time that I am trying to spend working on CEO stuff, massive projects, basically needle movers. The only things that I am time blocking are those needle movers. So I would share my calendar right now, but I'm not going to, for the privacy of my clients, for the privacy of my students that I work with in my tutoring side of my life. I'm not going to share my calendar right now, but like, think about it like this. Every single Monday for my entire quarter is blocked out with what I'm going to be spending that Monday doing, because that's my CEO day. Every single Tuesday and Friday is blocked out with what I've called a white space of what project I am working on in that given block of time. This, I think, is something that is going to be super important, because what used to happen to me is the projects, the strategic needle mover things that I needed and wanted to do in my life and in my business didn't get done because my calendar got so overcrowded with appointments. Or I got impulsively so distracted by trying to figure out what I should be spending my time on that my time just got away from me. So this is another big new thing that I'm doing is I've got big blocks of white space, and all of my like Mondays basically are blocked out with what CEO task I'm going to be working on. For some examples, like this Monday was my content planning day. The next Monday is content planning part 2. So I kind of try to break up content planning into 2 different Mondays. Sorry, I got distracted by something. My third Monday of the month is my systems day where I can make systems tweaks. And if there is a fifth Monday of the month, then I use that to do business planning. So that's kind of how I've got it all structured out. So with that, that is kind of that second point of what I've changed. The third thing that I've changed is I've used ChatGPT for pre-planning basically everything. ChatGPT is something I started using this past fall. And I will tell you right now, you guys probably see me post about it on Instagram if you follow me there. I am an AI convert. I used to be somebody who was like, I will never use AI. And I use ChatGPT all the time. ChatGPT is like my bestie. I love ChatGPT. And how I kind of use it is I think of it kind of now like it's my planning assistant. It's my AI coworkers. It is like clones of me because I've taught it to think like me. I've taught it what I want. I occasionally swear at it. Like ChatGPT and I are like no bullshit coworkers. And it's so fun. So let me give you some context for some of the ways I use ChatGPT. And actually, I've got a couple of these tabs right now. So again, for those of you watching the video, you can see it. So like one of the things that I did is I am, as I record this, 43 days into 75 hard. I've been imperfectly doing 75 hard. My 75 hard purists don't come at me because y'all don't know what my goals are. So just stafoo immediately. But I'm 43 days into 75 hard as I record this. I'm going to be doing a fundraiser on January 26th that involves me needing to sit on a stationary bike. And I will tell you right now, my butt is not stationary bike trained. I hate stationary biking. My butt gets sore. And I'm going to be doing, I think it's an 8K with my brother and my sister-in-law on May 10th this year. So I've got a lot of like physical things on the calendar this year. And we're going to try to do Camp Muir, which is base camp on Mount Rainier in Washington State. We're going to try to do Camp Muir, I think, this year because one of my friends really wants to do it and she hasn't had the opportunity to do it yet. So needless to say, I'm telling you all this background because Ellen has a lot of physical training goals that she needs to fit together into a training plan. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen once again for those of you who are watching the video. For those of you who are just listening to the podcast, no worries. You're not going to miss anything because what I went ahead and did is I quite literally have this ongoing conversation with ChatGPT all about making this training plan. And I actually I had it up because I'm making an adjustment to it. So the beginnings of it were an early conversation I had with it about 75 hard and how to find more sustainability with it. And then what I started doing, I think it was several weeks ago, I kind of went in and I literally said, thank you for helping me create a workout split. I'm going to be doing an 8K on May 10th. And I gave it the training plan that I wanted it to do. And it helped generate a training plan for me. And then I told it, hey, I have this fundraiser that I'm doing on January 26th. Can we work in stationary biking to this training plan? And it created a training plan for me. Like we're talking like Excel spreadsheet download of everything I'm going to do every day with my start dates. Like it generated it all for me. So basically, instead of me having to figure out what's going to fit where, what do I want, I just asked ChatGPT. I said, hey, do this for me. And it figured it all out for me. Even today, as I came back to this conversation, I realized early on trying to do my running plan that the existing running plan I was doing is too advanced because in the same way my butt is not stationary bike trained, I am not running trained right now. I'm very not in running shape right now. So I'm going to do a different training plan. And I asked it to come back and modify the training plan what we had made. And it did it. It modified the training plan that we had made with the new plan that I'm going to be implementing. So I realize actually, as I look at it now, that I need to tweak it because it didn't properly integrate the plan, but don't worry, I'll do that later. So that's one of the ways that I used ChatGPT is to create a training plan for me. Some of the other ways I've used ChatGPT recently are to create a social media strategy and help me come up with social media ideas. I ask it to write an Instagram post on a topic. It knows my brand voice and it can replicate it. So I've trained ChatGPT to do all of these things. And it's kind of gotten to the point where I never really start anything from scratch anymore. Whether it is a social post or a newsletter or a podcast outline or a blog, I never start anything from scratch. I open up the ChatGPTs that I've trained, whether it is my Chelsea, all of my ChatGPTs have names. So Chelsea, who is my CMO and my marketing strategist, I have trained her to know my brand voice, to know my brand strategy, to know my services and my products. I've trained her. So I will go in and be like, hey, I want to create this Instagram post. Help me draft the post. And she will do that. She will break it down for me. And I give her feedback. I'll be like, no, I don't like this. I would never say this. Take this out. Can we reorganize it? I basically talk to her as if she were a human. And then she makes the tweaks I want her to make. Now, admittedly, there's sometimes when I have really complex requests of ChatGPT that it is like pulling teeth to get it to do what I want. It's not perfect. It is a bot. It is AI, but it saves me so much time because I never have to start from scratch. I never take it at face value. I never just take the first thing that it generates, but it gives me basically a shortcut. It's like a cheat code to getting the things done I need to get done more quickly. And what I take all of that pre-planning, all of that strategy, all of that stuff that it helps me create, I then put all of that stuff inside of Notion. So like the workout plan we just looked at a second ago, that was then moved to my workout calendar inside of Notion. The social media strategy and social media plans is then moved into my content calendar inside of Notion. All of that pre-planning gets moved into Notion. And what I love about this whole process is, yes, I've done tons of pre-planning and strategizing, and I'm much more planned out for 2025 than perhaps any other year in my life, especially my life as a business owner. It doesn't feel rigid or overstructured. It feels like peace. It feels like clarity. Like if I want to change something, I can. I'm not locked into anything. But just knowing that I have all of this broken out is giving me such peace of mind. So with that, the final thing that I want to say with this is we've talked about how I'm using it, how I'm tweaking my own systems. How can you do the same? How can you do your own systems audit? And I want to walk you through a very simple framework, a very simple series of questions that you could use to do this. So first and foremost, identify what's working. Where are your systems actually supporting you? What feels aligned? What feels right? What feels like it's making your life easier? Identify what those things are. And maybe there's some tweaks that need to be made with those, whatever, but just identify what's working. Then step 2 is to identify what's not working, essentially. And there's kind of 2 ways to think about this. Maybe you just need to tweak or refresh some of those systems that are working, kind of like I talked about before with my daily planners that I was using. Maybe you have those existing systems that just need to tweak. Or maybe you have things in your systems that feel like a waste of time, that feel like they're chaotic and clunky and making things harder for you. Okay, we need to identify what those things are too. So what's working, what's not working. And then what we want to do is step 3 is to just create a plan for how you can simplify and streamline. So make a list of small tweaks that you can make to improve your systems. Make a list of larger tweaks that you need to make or systems that you need to just tear down and rebuild. Is there something that you want to learn about, something you want to research? Jot all of those things down. And then what you can do is you can either use Notion to help organize and implement those changes or whatever, project management system you're doing. And if you need help figuring out what is a good way to go about implementing the changes, use ChatGPT. Literally, you don't have to know anything about ChatGPT to plug all of that information in and be like, hey, these are the changes I want to make. These are the ones that feel like they're the highest priority because they're causing the biggest, they're either giving me the biggest benefit or they're causing the biggest hindrance in my life and in my business and in my systems. Plug it all into ChatGPT, give it some guidelines. The more clear you can make the prompt, the more details you can make the prompt, often the better with ChatGPT, especially when you're first using it as it's first getting to know what you want and what you need. So literally from the get-go, you could use ChatGPT to help you create a game plan for how you're going to make those system switches. Now, the final thing I will say in this is if you do this systems audit and you realize you have a lot of changes you need to make and you don't have the capacity or the time to make them, maybe we talk VIP day. Maybe that's something that you would just like to delegate. You don't want to have to do it yourself. Let's chat VIP day. I'll go ahead and put the link down below to learn more about how you could, how a VIP day might benefit you. I'm happy to hop on a call if you need to get clear on the ways in which a Notion system could benefit you and could help streamline this for you. Or maybe you are somebody who's just very, very curious about learning more about ChatGPT. As I release this right now, this week, I'm actually hosting a ChatGPT masterclass on January 9th. And basically, I'm going to teach you how to make ChatGPT your AI cheat code, your AI coworker for your business. We are going to be talking everything from, how do we create some custom GPTs? How do we train it to speak in our voice? What are my 3 C's for getting the most benefit out of using ChatGPT and to communicating with ChatGPT effectively? We're going to be talking about all of that. It is a paid masterclass on January 9th. So if you're listening to this as this goes live and ChatGPT sounds like a tool that's going to benefit you, but you want to make sure you're doing it right from the get-go, join us January 9th. It's only a $17 masterclass. And it's really just not about shiny tech. It's about turning ChatGPT into your planning assistant, turning it into your coworkers so that you can work smarter, not harder, and so that you can essentially clone yourself and take some of those things off of your plate. So if this sounds like something you need, go ahead and head to coachellen.com/ChatGPT. And again, I'll put that link down below as well. So with that, I think the biggest thing I want you to take from today is remember, it's not about new you. It's not about needing to change anything about yourself and how you're showing up. It is about new systems. How can we set up your systems in a way that is going to support you in those lifestyle changes that you make? Because if you set up the systems and then go to make the change, you're automatically giving yourself more time, more energy, and more capacity to go do that thing. So with that, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening. If you have a friend that you now know would either benefit from hearing this whole idea of a systems audit and or who would benefit from the ChatGPT masterclass, feel free to send this their way. But with that, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening and or watching if you're watching on YouTube. And I will talk to you next time. Stay relentless, achiever. Bye.